Hey there guys, welcome to DG Gaming Tips, and we're continuing on with the chipping tips in this part 2 video. If you haven't watched part 1, then I highly recommend that you go and watch that first, because a lot of the stuff in here is going to reference that. And we're going to look at the 5 different chipping types, and then we're going to take it onto a course and see if it translates into better chipping. So let's do this!
Alright. Episode 1 and 2.
So there's 5 different chip types available to you, which if you cycle through them in order include normal, i.e. a normal golf swing with a very lofted chipping club. High approach in, so there's not too much run and good backspin. Chip, which is your classic pitch and run. Flop, which is low powered scoop into the air and a little bit of backspin. Punch, ideal for those low trajectory, get out of jail type shots. And pitch, kind of like a double strength chip where you want medium trajectory and a bit of run on. So some quick summary graphics so you can visualize the chipping types. And we've got 5 different chipping shots available to us because we've got all different kind of scenarios in terms of the approach shot onto the green and the green slopes. And if you're looking for some way to remember which chip shot does what, then press the L2 button and cycle through the different chipping shots with the square button, and you can see how the loft changes. And that should give you some way of remembering which is going to hit it high into the air, which is going to do a lower trajectory pitch and run type shot. So let's head out onto the course. Love this one actually, the Ocean K Golf Club, one of the TGC official courses.
Hello there and welcome to this first hole par 4. Let's have a good time out there. That ball was launched by you.
So I'm going to hit all of these approach shots to the green short intentionally so that we're left with some kind of a pitch. That leaves 23 yards to the pin, and the pin position is 2 feet above our standing position, so we're going to have to account for that. And from the first part video, we guesstimate it's going to have an effect of 1 yard, 2 yards, 3 yards, something like that per foot of height that we need to compensate for, where the ball's going to travel less distance because it's going to have less air time. So essentially that means we need to sort of aim the power for about 26, 27, 28 yards, something like that. And one of the most important tips pre-chip is to take a Goosey-Gander at the green surface. Okay. So what is this telling us? 2 things. There's a slope uphill to the pin, so any ball run up to that point is going to slow down, so that's a good factor for a chip and run. And there's a slope from right to left, so we need to factor that into where we aim so that when it runs, it's going to curve around nicely to the pin. And this downhill slope to the bunker is going to be a real concern if our chip lands anywhere on that angled surface. So either we need to clear it in the air time or we need to factor it into our aiming. So because we've got a nice flat lie and the green is going slightly uphill, this is perfect for a chip and run. So we've got almost full retention on the shot, so we don't need to worry about that. And there's a little bit of wind, but the ball's going to be in the air so little, it's not worth worrying about. And applying our 60% rule that we discussed in part 1 for chip airtime versus ball run on means that the sand wedge should hit us to a final distance of 26.666666 yards, which, given that we're aiming for something like 26-27, is perfect. So we can hit this at full swing. Let's see how he gets on. I'll take that.
Okay, here we go.
Right, let's take a look at the green. So a fairly strong left to right slope, but more crucially it's downhill, which is going to make it more challenging for a chip and run. It's probably better if we can do a higher loft chip shot because it's easier to judge the airtime distance than it is a custom slope run. Let me just quickly demonstrate an attempt at a chip and run based loosely on our previous calculations. That was kind of looking like it had potential, but then it just wanted to run on and on. So let's try that again from a similar position, a bit further away this time. And what I want is the chip shot technique that's got the highest loft, which for a short distance is the flop shot. And then in terms of distance, it's pretty much there. I just want to take off a little bit of the carry run, especially where it's downhill, by increasing the loft on the club. Let's give it a go. Pretty good. Let's move on.
Okay, it's time to send this ball on its way. Looks like you're going into the rough on this one.
Not ideal, but it's as good a time as any to deal with bunker shots. Right, let's take a look at this green. Uh-oh. That has the potential to be a nightmare. So in simple terms, we need to make sure that the chip airtime clears that red downhill section. And bunker shots can be one of the most difficult to predict in terms of distance. Mostly because this retention band can be quite wide. In this case, we've got a 20% difference between low and high. Now, I'm not quite sure how their algorithm works, whether it's just completely random or not, but the difference between 74% retention and 94% is potentially quite a few feet before or after the hole. So unless somebody's able to give me some developer insight into exactly how it works, we'd normally average it in the middle. But if you recall that downhill nightmare red section, what we certainly don't want to do is pitch this one short. So really we should be looking at the 74% value just to be completely safe, acknowledging the fact that we'll probably run a bit past. So in terms of numbers, 74% of 40 yards is 30 yards. So that means the ball's going to hit the ground sooner than if it was flat. And we'd be guessing about 1 or 2 yards per foot of elevation. So likelihood is ball's going to land something like 25 yards. And then run on for a short period because it's quite a high loft with a flop shot. Let's roll the tape and see what happens. But yeah, ran past as expected, but at least we managed to clear that red section. Moving on.
It's looking good.
So looking ahead to the green, we've got a bunker on the approach on the way in, and then a nasty sort of downhill sideways slope on the green after the pin. So pitch and run's going to be dangerous. Far safer is going to be a high loft club where we can drop it in and stop it quickly. So the game's auto-chosen a pitch shot, which is kind of a medium loft chip, whereas what I'm looking for is a bit of a higher loft. So I think I prefer this flop shot for this one. So in terms of distance, this club can hit it 40 yards, and we're on the fairway, so we've got pretty much full shot retention, and we've got a reasonable bit of wind behind us, but the ball's not going to be in the air that long. And the pin position's 45 yards away and 1 foot up, so probably need to hit it about 47. So this combination is about right. Looks like it's going to hit it slightly short if it comes to an immediate stop. But there aren't really any better clubs that are a better fit than this without trying to guess a partial swing. So let's just go for it and see what happens. So yeah, not super close to the hole, but it was easily predictable and leaves us with a pretty easy putt.
Okay, let's put this ball out there. That was exceptional.
And looking at this green, we've got a pretty steady downhill all the way to the pin, and the rest of the sideways blobbies are going all over the place. So there's a temptation on this one to do a very high lofted chip, drop the ball right on the pin, and then have some sort of backspin to counter that downhill. And a normal style chip shot will allow us to do that, but it's designed for longer distance chips than this, so we're going to have to do a partial swing. So we're aiming for 30 yards, but that 2 foot downhill will mean the ball will have extra air time, so we want to be aiming for about 26, 27, something like that. And the lob wedge in normal mode will hit 75 yards, but it's 2 feet down, so more air time, so more like about 80. And we're in heavy rough, and we've got 84 to 88% retention, which is going to affect the backspin as well. So in the opposite fashion of that bunker shot we did earlier, given that it's downhill, we want to err on the side of caution, so 88% of 80 yards is 70 yards. So really we need to look at hitting this less than half power. And as we saw in part 1, that can be slightly tricky because lifting the club up halfway doesn't necessarily translate to getting half power. So based on our previous demonstration, it's probably more like about 2/3 or something like that. So what I'm going to do is increase the loft by 3 notches and take about 10 yards off and then try and hit it just below half power. Let's see how he gets on. Yeah, not good. Very difficult to judge where halfway power was, and the heavy rough seemed to kill all the backspin. Let's take a look at another similar shot and we'll try a different chip type. So same green, pretty much same position, just a little bit further away. So a pitch mode chip is similar to a normal chip, but he only lifts the club about 2/3 of the way up, and that brings the distance down and makes it easier to guess. So I won't bore you with the number details this time, but we want to aim as though it's about 32 yards, and the cautious approach on this one is 93% or 45, which is 42. So I'm going to increase the loft 5 notches in an attempt to knock off about 13-15 yards. I'm not expecting much backspin, so I just want to sort of hit it short and then let it roll in. Let's see how he gets on. Yeah, much easier to hit the club at full swing and then adjust the small distance variation with the loft notches. Moving on. And just a final word about the punch chip shot. This is a get out of danger specialist shot. I can't see you'd ever want to use it apart from when you've got like some sort of tree foliage in the way and you want the shot to be very low loft. Mostly because it's like a turbo chip and run, and the run bit is going to be so difficult to control the distance. If you use the same distance measurement methods that I've been talking about so far, and you get a kind path through the foliage, then you might be lucky and get somewhere close to the pin. And that's it, guys. Give me a like if any of that's been useful to your chipping, and consider subscribing if you want to hear about more of my new videos coming soon. And until next time, happy golfing!
That one didn't sound right. That's alright, let's just have another whack at this.